to infinity and beyond!
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No. I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the film room. I'm Zach Goins, and today there's no Johnny. He is off on vacation, but that means we have a very special guest substituting in, a substitute co-host. It's Avery Thompson. She's been on the podcast before. She is the entertainment director at Hollywood Life. Avery, welcome back. It's so exciting to have you here for a TV-filled episode. That's your bread and butter.
This is what I was born to do. I'm ready.
Well, if you don't remember, I think it was this time last year that we had you on to do, it might have even been 2 years ago at this point, who knows, it all runs together, but we did a TV preview with you to channel your expertise. You are, for the listeners out there, Avery is a Taylor Swift fan, a UNC alumni, diehard Tar Heel, TV obsessed, all of High School Musical, the series, Game of Thrones, everything that you ever hear me talk about that Johnny has no interest in. Avery's here to substitute and meet that passion. So I am thrilled to be able to talk about the fall TV season with you. That's what we're going to be previewing with everything that's coming out this year. And I know you've got a lot that you're excited to talk about too.
Yeah. And at first, like when these strikes started a couple months ago, I was like, gosh, there's going to be nothing in the fall. But now I'm like, wow, it's busier than ever. So
all the streamers have just been stocking up over the months, over the years, and now we're all going to get to benefit from that, whereas broadcast TV is going to be a little bit of a mess, but we can dive into that here in a second. But just off the top, I've got to get my little announcements out there. Of course, if you are not already subscribed to our newsletter, The Rewind, please go ahead and do so. It's all of the podcast episodes, anything on our website, interviews, YouTube videos, they all come directly to you. And speaking of YouTube, we've got our interview series for Shrinking, for Schmigadoon, for Ted Lasso. I know we're in the midst of Emmy voting has already happened, but the awards, I guess the voting is locked up, so won't help you there. But the award ceremony will be in January, and then we've got all sorts of other awards, SAG, Critics' Choice, all that's right around the corner. So if you're thinking about Ted Lasso, about Schmigadoon, about Shrinking, go check those out and get to know that cast over there. But Avery, now let's talk. Before we talk about what's coming, what's going on right now? What have you been watching? Is there anything on TV or movies at the theater that you've been checking out that's really been sticking with you lately?
I think I've sort of been in like a post Oppenheimer and Barbie coma. So I haven't been to the movies lately, but there are like a couple movies this fall that I'm excited about, like Exorcist, and I wouldn't normally be, but the trailer really got me.
Okay.
So I'm like kind of oddly excited. Obviously, Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour.
The Eras Tour, yeah. We saw it both in person, and now we're gonna get to go see it at the theater again.
I feel like it's only fair. So I'm excited about that as well.
I'm curious. Wait, I need your thoughts on that, because are we gonna be going to a movie and are there going to be people standing up, dancing, singing in the theater up and down the aisles, or are we going to be respectfully sitting in our seats and singing along to ourselves?
That's what I'm worried about. I'm very much of the old mind of like, please don't talk or text during the movie. And
it's not a traditional movie, but still, I'm with you.
I know, but like, I understand it might be sort of like a Twilight era response to certain
Avengers Endgame people
yes.
hooting and hollering. When I saw Barbie, I saw it on opening night, and all the commotion of people in their costumes having their photo shoots in the theater. I imagine this is going to be like quadruple that probably. And then also during America Ferrera's monologue, there was one woman who stood up and started clapping and cheering, and I'm like, yes, it's a great monologue, but like, ma'am, we are still at the movies. Please show some respect. But I have a feeling that Swifties are gonna throw all the rules out the window. So I feel bad for anyone who's in a neighboring theater trying to watch
Yeah.
Oppenheimer or another movie and just hears bad blood being like screamed at the top of their lungs next door. But
I know it's gonna
it'll
be
be great.
crazy. And then for TV, I've been trying to like catch up and like get like prepped for fall. So I've been watching a
Mhm.
lot of screeners. So I've checked out The Fall of the House of Usher. I'm a Mike Flanagan stan.
Of
So
course, of course. We
yes,
have I made sure to note that because I know we've gone way back on some of those shows. So when we dive into that, there we'll have some fun. But I have not seen that yet, so I'm excited.
I have been trying to get into Love is Blind because it like, it's just so massive, but like I haven't been able to yet. So we'll see.
It's
And then
so overwhelming.
I'm rewatching The Vampire Diaries, comfort show. So
I've been flirting with as you know, I had my OC watch for the first
yeah.
time last year, and I've been flirting with starting One Tree Hill, which I've never seen. So I'm just I need to that was the OC was such a comforting, like just throw it on the melodrama, the nostalgia of it all that I needed another dose of that in my life. So I think One Tree Hill will be next.
It's such an investment. That's the only thing. It's 9 seasons.
I know the OC was only four, and that still felt
Right.
like a huge investment.
Right. You need to watch Veronica Mars if you haven't. Have you?
No.
That's what you should watch. That's what you
Okay.
should watch. Only three
That
seasons, and a movie and a season 4. I lied.
that's Kristen Bell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, throwback Kristen Bell. Um, on my front, TV wise, I know the one time I already mentioned High School Musical, the musical, the series. This is for your knowledge. We have not podcasted in probably like a month, so there's a couple shows that have happened that I have not talked about. But
Oh,
I know we're both HSMT MTS stands out
yes.
here, and we finally got the culmination of that series to come to a close. No Zach and Vanessa. That was heartbreaking, but I think we stuck the landing as far as focusing on our core characters there and an emotional send off for them.
Yeah. I hope the best for that cast because they're so wildly talented, and I just hope that they get big breaks because that show was so difficult in its comedy and the physical comedy and then the dramatic elements in the singing obviously, and they're just I love them all so much. I wish them all the best. I wish
I
I could
know
watch more seasons of them.
everyone, it's so funny because with Hulu, we posted about them a couple times on social media. Just like there was a rest in peace to How I Met Your Father. There was a joke in How I Met Your Father about High School Musical, the series, and we like posted a meme about it, and all of the fans are like, "Oh my God, Hulu confirmed that we're getting a college years spinoff that they're picking up." You know how that would like
Yeah.
or Blackish went to then Grownish on Hulu or in Freeform. Like they're hoping for some sort of jump like that, and that's way beyond my pay grade. But I would love to see it because, like you said, this cast is so great, and just to follow along with them would be an absolute blast.
I wanted to follow up on How I Met Your Father. Are you upset that you don't know who the father is?
I feel like they need to just come out and say, I don't know if it's gonna be like shopped around to other uh streamers or networks or anything like that, but I feel like I would just like to know, but I'm not like emotionally invested in the way like if How I Met Your Mother had been canceled at like season 5 or something like that, I would have been devastated. But I feel like this was still just like so early in the process. I don't know what they I remember it was a long time after season 1 when it was like, are they even gonna get a season 2? And cliffhangers. I don't know. I feel like people were. Did you ever even watch season 2 or no? I know you
No.
struggled through season 1 a little bit, but
It was not my cup of tea.
no,
Um,
I was the same way with season 1. I was like, okay, I love How I Met Your Mother so much, like I'm gonna give it a shot. Made my way through it. Wasn't planning on continuing with any future seasons, and then in the end of season 1, they had the reveal of Robin coming back, Kobe Smulders, and then they did Barney in the first episode of season 2 and had him like appear a little bit throughout. And I was like, are they going to try and work in all of the old cast members? But now we'll never know.
is it just me, or is it like these sitcoms don't translate well on streaming, like as they
It's,
would maybe on broadcast?
I feel like one thing that How I Met Your Father really tried to do was like replicate How I Met Your Mother's style of, it's still like it's on streaming, but it's still like faded to black for commercial breaks. It had a laugh track. It had the sort of same type of humor, but it was whereas like that How I Met Your Mother, I love it, but it's very dated to like the early 2000s and just like the humor. And then this was trying to do the same thing, but it was like kind of cringy because they're like no cap bet like trying to say like the lingo of the time and like talk about Olivia Rodrigo's farewell tour and stuff like that is what Kim Cattrall was saying from the future. It's I don't know. It was a mess, but rest in peace, How I Met Your Father. May we one day find out who the father is. But outside of that, this is a major throwback. The Bear season 2, finally watched it. Amazing, phenomenal, love it. I'm so torn. I'm so torn with that having to compete in comedy. I know season 1 is what's competing this awards season, but or at least as far as Emmys.
I thought maybe they might be shifting to drama for season 2.
I don't know about season 2. I know the award season that we're in the midst of, I guess the Bear already won all the stuff for Critics' Choice, SAG, all that in the spring. But for this Emmys is obviously they're in the comedy category still, which is going up against Ted Lasso season 3. And then season 2, hopefully it goes to drama because it had its funny moments, but it was a heavy, heavy season.
Yeah, and I think it's been confusing for people because people were thinking, oh, season 2 is what's nominated for the Emmys. And it's like, no, it's season 1. And like season 2 won't even be nominated for Emmys until next year.
Yeah, it was the same thing. I remember when Ted Lasso season 2 was airing and 1 was in the Emmys like campaign cycle. But I feel like that's got to be like a little extra boost that even if it's not season 2 that's nominated, being front and center with new episodes rolling out in the middle of people voting, that it's like, I know I'm voting for the old season, but Richie's just so good in this season. So it's going to be like a encapsulation of the two. But that everybody hyped up the Christmas episode, which was great, very stressful. However, Forks, the next episode with Richie at the restaurant and so many Taylor Swift call outs, so biased, of course, but that episode was just so good. I love seeing him there.
I know everybody hypes Christmas episode, and that was an excellent episode. I loved Forks, but I also loved episode 4 when Marcus goes to Copenhagen.
The Copenhagen, Will Poulter.
There's just something so delicate and touching about the way that episode was made.
And that was directed by Rami Youssef as the director there.
God, it was gorgeous.
I love the way that the show is so like, it's obviously like all cohesive, but each episode has sort of like it can be its own tone, its own theme, and that's like very evident. Even just like sometimes they have an opening credits, sometimes they don't, sometimes they have like just all these different elements and just are able to mix it up completely and always keep you on your toes, whether you're going to be like in a nice Tinder moment or just like pulling your hair out for a solid 30 minutes. But on the reality front, Claim to Fame, have you watched?
Yeah, of course. It was so crazy.
It's like the worst show ever, but you're just like so invested in it because like the challenges are dumb. The Jonas Brothers are so cringy as hosts, but I want to know who is Donny Osmond's son. Like it's
right.
It was.
And he was such a menace in this.
He was. I was convinced. Well, the first episode aired like the week after I was like releasing the Schmigadoon interviews, and I was like, this guy looks a lot like Aaron Tveit, and I was convinced that it was gonna be him. And then like they had that, and then one of my friends, or I had Aaron Tveit as a guest. One of my friends was like, oh, he looks like John Mayer. And then we had the Jim Carrey, we had Elvis, we had Donny. Like there were so many different options.
People. But then when you know he's Donny Osmond's son, you're like, wow, that tracks.
That makes sense.
And Gabriel Cannon, I mean, we should not have been surprised that Nick Cannon's brother would win the show.
I was shocked at how many people did not realize what all of those babies could mean on the clue. Like the second you see 10 babies, like I think we know who that is. And then Monet was great. She was our pop culture queen that was able to help put all the pieces together for everybody else. But I'm excited to have that as like a guilty pleasure show moving forward. I hope it's the perfect, like, middle of summer, shows are on break, like what's going to be on ABC before The Bachelorette. Like it's perfect for that slot.
Yeah, agreed.
And then last one that I'll talk about, the morning show season 3, we'll get into it in a minute, but binged it all, those screeners. It hasn't even started yet,
All
but
of them?
I've seen it all. And
Okay.
we're still under embargo, but binged it all. It was a roller coaster. Um, but with that note, let's get into the fall TV preview for 2023. I know, setting the stage, you mentioned it off the top. We are still in the midst of a writer's strike, an actor's strike. There's nothing new being made. There hasn't been anything new for months, unless you're in the small subset of, like A24, Neon, those production companies that have agreed to the strike demands. But you said earlier you thought there was going to be like a lull in content, that's the word that all the studios are using versus the creators. I'm not a bad guy. But broadcast TV is suffering a little bit as far as what's on the schedule, very heavy into reality TV. They're getting creative as far as what they're doing to program. I know that we're getting CBS is taking some of its like streaming content, putting it on linear TV to get people hooked there. Yellowstone season 1 is going to be airing. We're getting creative with NCIS Sydney to pull some from Australian Paramount Plus and put it on the mainstream TV because they're just that desperate. But reruns, reality, streaming content, it's going to be a weird fall as far as what's on actual TV.
Yeah, and I think CBS might be in the most difficult position there. They don't have as much content as like ABC, which has like Bachelor in Paradise, The Golden Bachelor, Dancing with the Stars, like
8 versions of The Bachelor happening at once.
They have a lot. And NBC actually has some of scripted content that they like the Jesse L. Martin show. The Irrational is premiering this fall, so they do have some scripted stuff. So it'll I think CBS, like the Yellowstone was obviously a smart move, but
I have not seen Yellowstone, so maybe I'll be tuning in. Who knows?
Are you the only person who has not seen Yellowstone?
The funny thing is that my parents have watched 1893 or 1923, 18 whatever. Okay. Never watched Yellowstone though. They've watched all the spinoffs and sequels, but not the real deal. And
they should get on that.
Yeah, I'm sure if they love the other ones so much. That's true. Unless you watch it on CBS.
True. Yes.
But no, I think, and then I know ABC is going to have Abbott Elementary reruns, stuff like that. That's going to be my saddest moment, is that when it's a Wednesday night and I don't have a new Abbott, because that's such a comfort show and okay, I can just tune in for 23 minutes and have that light breezy comedy that still pulls at the heartstrings. And that's something that obviously used to be every show, every night of the week there's a sitcom on that everybody tunes in and watches. That's something that's very distant past now, but Abbott was one that was bringing that back to life, at least for me, because I don't really watch a ton of sit down at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday or something like that. I'm mainly just streaming, and I feel like a lot of people are like that now.
It was very much like appointment television, even for a comedy, like a 30-minute sitcom or 30-minute comedy like Abbott. It was people if you missed it, people were going to be talking about it, and that's really rare in this day and age on broadcast.
For sure. And I guess while the strike is still going on, maybe we'll still be getting House of the Dragon, not this year, but at some point. That's one of the few shows that is actively still being worked on. So that, speaking of appointment television, maybe that won't be too far down the line. We'll see.
I'm so ready, but I'm not ready for what the season is going to bring.
I know. I went ahead and read the Fire and Blood book over the spring, and man, it's going to get dark real quick.
Yeah, but it's going to get so good. I'm ready for Matt Smith and Emma Darcy to just chew on some scenery.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. But looking ahead directly into, well, I guess not ahead, right now, the first one on our list, at least on my list, is The Changeling on Apple TV Plus. It just came out this past week. September 8th had a 3-episode premiere, and we'll now have new episodes every Friday. I have not watched it yet, but it's definitely one that I'm looking to check out. We've got Lakeith Stanfield, Clark Bacco, and Adina Porter in this dark, twisted, mystery, magical world, I guess. The little synopsis is set in an alternate New York City. A father and husband searches through a magical world for his abducted son and missing wife. And I don't know if you've watched the trailer, but it's very surreal, scary. I really don't know what to take from this. It gave me sort of like Lovecraft Country vibes without the monster element of it, but who knows? They're definitely teasing some scary witchcraft here, so there could be monsters at some point. But I mean, I know it. I do a lot of hyping up Apple, but it's all very warranted because I've yet to watch something on there that I'm like, this is, well, there's one show, Loot, did not like Loot, but most everything that I've seen there has been at least like good, if not above to, great, amazing levels. So I'm excited to check it out. I don't know if it's on your list because this is one that I had added.
I love Lakeith Stanfield, so I will probably tune in at some point, maybe towards Halloween. Like maybe that'll get me in the mood.
Yeah.
But I just think he does such different projects and is really just creative, a chameleon of sorts, and he always tries different things. So I'm always like curious to see what he does. And he's such a powerful but subtle performer. So
absolutely. Well, I will dive into that here soon, and hopefully we got a 3-episode premiere off the bat, so we'll get a quick check if it's something that I'll be continuing with throughout the fall. But one that is following that up shortly this coming week, September 13th, on Apple TV Plus, as well as The Morning Show Season 3. We're back. Jen and Reese are back. Billy Crudup, our UNC King, is back, and John Hamm is joining the cast as well. It's an explosive season. Have you watched any yet or no?
I've watched the first 3. It's something that I have to take in like small doses because it's so crazy, but like in the best way. It's so wild. And so many things happen that like sometimes I'm like, I live.
You need to decompress.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to like process all of this.
I know. I've seen
Sam is good. Like, I'm glad to see him in like a juicy drama role again.
No, he and Jennifer Aniston are great together, and like that's a strong addition to this already stacked cast. I know Billy has already won an Oscar, or not an Oscar, an Emmy for this character, this Corey Ellison character, and very well deserved. He's my favorite. He and Stella, the I guess VP, whatever her role is at the company, they're my 2 favorite characters. I like them all, but or at least like to dislike some of them. But this season is so fun diving into, the trailer here shows like semblances of the Sony hack, of what goes down at the morning show, and then we've got some Succession vibes with a potential sale, merger, acquisition sort of situation. It was very, not to the extreme of Succession being the like cutthroat, savage business deal, but there were certainly Succession vibes in some of the stuff in this trailer as far as what's to come with the future of UBA.
Agreed. I will watch Billy Crudup as Corey Ellison till the end of time. I think he's so magical in this role. And I stan him and Bradley. I don't know why. Like, I just do. Like,
no.
He has really great chemistry. But he has chemistry with everybody.
He has chemistry with literally everyone in the show.
Okay. Yeah.
That's just your
like with this past lives really making a surge right now. Like, she is killing it. Greta
Lee season. No, you're just your Twitter bio literally says like shameless shipper or something like that. Yeah, so it's not surprising to see you out here with the Corey and Bradley ship here. Yes. But no, it's great. I don't know if it's I imagine with the show this big, it's probably just a 1-episode premiere. I don't know if I've seen anything as far as what's coming this week or if it's going to be a 2-episode and then weekly.
I think it's 3 episodes.
That's big for
2. No, it's 2 and then 1 per week.
Okay. That just a little bit to tease you, to whet the appetite and then keep you stringing along for the season. But very excited to follow that throughout the season. I'm impressed that you were able to restrain. Rebecca and I were just like diving through all these episodes, and another. I think one day we watched literally like 6 of them. So it was just like a lay on the couch and rot sort of day. But it's a blast. But the next one that I wanted to talk about, I put this on the list, and I put it because it's a big title, not necessarily one that I am going to be following along with. But I just wanted to get a vibe check here on American Horror Story. We've got season 12. We are 12 seasons deep in this. American Horror Story Delicate Part 1, September 20th. This thing, I used to love American Horror Story. I was all in for so long. The first 3 seasons are elite, then it starts to like drift off a little bit, picks back up. But I watched all the way through season 8, through Apocalypse, which was in 2018, and then have fallen off since then. But this one, I don't know what to make of this. We've got Emma Roberts coming back for the first time since 2019. We've got Kim Kardashian joining the cast as an actress, not playing Kim Kardashian. She's actually acting, and Cara Delevingne as well as this trio of female leads. And I watched the trailer. It's more of like a tone setter than an actual like plot. You know, you don't really know what to make of this, but
yeah, what I've known from watching American Horror Story trailers over the years is like you can't ever guess the vibe from the trailer. Like it's always so different than what you think. But look, I was an original American Horror Story fan. Like
Did you have the Normal People Scare Me t-shirt?
I did not, but I would live and die. Like I would live and die by Murder House. Like that was the first season right out of
set the bar too high.
Yes, and then like Asylum was great. Coven, and then it kind of tapers off, like you said. I actually really loved 1984. I think
that's the one that was the first one I didn't watch.
I thought it was really excellent and had the thing about, and then it just gets kind of crazy. I didn't really watch last season, even though like wasn't Evan Peters in it too? Like
last season was NYC, and then I don't know. So 9 was 1984, 10 double. Well, then there's also American Horror Stories, which is like another show. So
I wish they would go back to more like rooted in reality horror stories, like Asylum and Coven. Like Coven is witches, but like it had that whole New Orleans pull, and then like Murder House. Like it seems so like it's like techno. I was like, I don't know. I love Emma Roberts, and I'm sure she's going to be great because she's always good in these roles. But like, I will watch probably to see Kim. Is it just going to be camp though? Like,
yeah, it seemed very like surrealist almost in the way that it was presented. But like you said, it's more of just like to give you a feel of it rather than like letting you know what actually is going to be happening in this with the teaser. But I don't know. I think it's interesting here as well that this is part 1. This is the first time they're doing anything like this. So I don't know if it's like, I don't know if they've even announced the release schedule, if it's like part 1 is all dropping on the 20th, or if it's like part 1 starts and comes out weekly. But they were in production, shut down with the strike, continued production, then shut down again. And so I believe that's why it's all part 1, that they're like, okay, whatever we had in the can, we're gonna get that fixed up and ready to go. And then who knows when part 2 is coming as the strike is ongoing. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, as far as if strike continues and part 1 is in September and we don't get part 2 until like March or something like that. I feel like that's got to throw off the momentum of the show a little bit.
Something that's really bothering me is it's Cara Delevingne's look in the trailer. It's not hitting with me.
Like, with her bangs and like the big goggle. I don't know. The posters that they've been putting out have been very spider oriented. And there's that one scene in the trailer where Emma Roberts is like pulling a hair and it turns out to be like silk from a spider. So I don't know what the motif is going on there, where that's going to come into play. But from what we can see with this teaser is that, you know, Emma Roberts' character is an actress. She's pregnant. She's caught between like Kim is like, do you want to win an Oscar? Do you want it more than you want to have a child? And that seems to be this sort of, she's now getting like being gaslighted as she's trying to become an actress, but has Cara Delevingne as this like sketchy OBGYN or doctor that's looking at her baby and something's wrong with the baby. Is it going to be a spider? Who knows? Again, this doesn't really give much away, but I don't know. I probably won't be tuning in, but you'll have to keep me posted on that.
I will let you know if you need to tune in, but you should watch 1984.
Maybe that if I'm looking for something for spooky season here, yeah, we'll use that to get in the mood. But later on that week, September 22nd. I don't know if you have any interest in this one. I threw it on there. The Continental. It is the John Wick prequel, spinoff, whatever you want to call it. 3-part event on Peacock. Very interesting format. I feel like one of the most interesting things about this is that, like, oh, it's 3 parts. Like, I can get into this. Like, it's not a big commitment, and we can just check it out. I love the John Wick movies. Very fun. Lots of action. Love Keanu. He is not in this, unfortunately, but I'm still curious about this just because it's, 1970s New York. Seems to be a lot of action. It's about the origins of Ian McShane's character in the John Wick movies, but the Continental is like the hotel and this organization of super spies, assassins, whatever you want, to hitmen. And so we're just kind of seeing how Ian McShane's later on character came to inherit this as his kingdom. But I'm interested, but I'm also hesitant because, like, John Wick is obviously all about spectacle and big action set pieces and great choreography. And I don't know, obviously this is going on Peacock, which is a streamer. We've seen big budgets on streamers, but from the movie screen to a TV screen, I don't know if it's going to translate as well. I hope the production value is still equally as high as it is in these movies.
I have a confession.
You haven't seen John Wick?
I've never seen any of the John Wick movies. I'm not a hater. It's just something in the grand scheme of like my TV watching and movie watching world I have not gotten to yet. But I will say Colin Waddell is a terrific actor. I knew him from the originals, which was the Vampire Diaries spinoff, and he was very good in that. So I feel like he's had leading man potential for a long time, and I'm really curious to see him really take the reins in this.
Wasn't he in, what else was he in?
Flight Attendant.
Flight Attendant, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. He was in a Vampire Diaries spinoff. Now he's in a John Wick spinoff. He needs to find some new IP to get involved in. No, I'm curious just to see what the 3-part event is about, what the show is about, and you need to see John Wick. I know that I can't give you too much. I can't give you too much grief because there's so many things that you're always like, oh, have you seen this? As we just established earlier, that no, I have not seen that, so I'll let it slide. But that's September 22nd on Peacock. Gen V, you put this on here for the Boys spinoff on Prime Video, September 29th. Let's hear it.
It's basically like The Boys, but for like teens/college age. So it follows like these young adult superheroes, and they sort of attend this university together, and that's run by Vought International. And basically we're just going to see these crazy college kids go at it, which I think is going to be really fun and really leans into that boys mentality of just wild, unexpected spectacle. And I'm a huge fan of The Boys, and I did not read the comics or anything, but I think that cast is so underrated. Like Anthony Starr, I think, is like one of the most talented actors working right now.
Horrifying.
His work as Homelander is like absolutely like masterful. But this Gen V has a really great cast, some Sabrina alums, Jazz Sinclair, Chance Perdomo. We have Patrick Schwarzenegger, who was really good.
Arnold's son
in The Staircase. So
I
want to see him in this. I bet you I think he's got some talent.
So my confession now, I'm only on season 2 of The Boys. I missed like the initial hype train of like the first seasons coming out, and then last year started to watch it, went through the first season pretty quick, got into the second one, and then just got busy, never continued because they're long episodes. But I still like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. I plan to pick back up with it eventually. I know I need to watch season 3 as well. But just watching the trailer for this, it seemed very standalone still. Like the premise Gen V is like, obviously it's like the compound V that gives these people, they find out that this is like what gives the superheroes their powers. And luckily, at my point in season 2, I found out that this is already the thing. So no spoilers for me. But based on like how far I had gotten in season 2, it seemed like this was pretty standalone as far as, being able to watch this. Maybe I've caught up with The Boys, maybe I haven't, but this is very self-contained, like you said, in the college with these students. It's a whole new cast of characters. I saw, it looked like A Train might be in it as far as what IMDb had to say. Who knows if that's fully reliable. But maybe some like crossover, some references or appearances, but not necessarily anything that like is going to hinder your enjoyment if you haven't seen or rewatched lately some of the originals. But I'm excited. Maybe even without watching season 3, I might dive into this because it did look very fun. And like I said, I do really like the boys. I just haven't made time to watch it all. There's too much to watch.
I know.
What I also need to catch up with is Survivor because September 27th, Survivor 45. We are 45 seasons into this thing. We've been trucking since 2000, and my goodness, still top tier reality television. For 43 seasons, I was fully in, watched it all live as it aired, and then have since not watched. I'm not caught up on the last season yet, so need to go back and do that. But I am loving the Survivor renaissance that we are in currently. It's been ongoing for like the last probably 2 years at this point. But I remember when it was like the perfect storm of the pandemic still being raging and Survivor having 2 seasons go on Netflix for the first time ever. And people were just like rediscovering it and diving in. So I went from being oh my God, you still watch Survivor, like getting that sort of comment from people, to being like, oh, Survivor's great. I totally see why everybody's watching it again. And I felt very validated in that. I don't know if you're a Survivor fan or have ever checked out any of the seasons.
That was another one that escaped me. I feel like you either got on that train or you didn't. And I know I have countless friends like yourself who love Survivor. I just have not. There's so much TV.
No, this is one we talked about it earlier. Appointment television on a broadcast network, 8 o'clock on CBS on a Wednesday. This is one that I make time to check out because it's so good still. And like the fact that we are 45 seasons deep and they're able to still, add new things, keep that same formula that works so well, because it is just, they always reference it as like the ultimate social experiment. You've got this self-contained society that's being formed on an island, and it's just a great look at, reality TV, how it's meant to be, just letting people do their thing. The challenges are far better than the ones on Claim to Fame, I'll say it. So I feel like again, I haven't watched the most recent season, so maybe they've done it, but my biggest complaint, not even all the seasons have still been like very entertaining, but there was a point where they were getting a little bit too much of like, how do we change it up? How do we modernize it? What can we do to like switch it up? The formula has worked. Let's just, we don't need 800 hidden advantages. We don't need all these special idols and whatnot. Just put the people on the island, let them do their thing, because that's when it's at its best, when you just have a great cast of characters and let them, lie, cheat, steal, backstab, all that good stuff that we love to watch on juicy reality TV. That's all we need.
Yep. Don't change the formula. People like it for a reason.
And shout out Jeff Probst, finally getting re-nominated for the first time since like 2006 for an Emmy this season. So hopefully we can keep that train rolling with Survivor 45. But getting into October, we need a pulse check on the MCU, Avery, because it's getting murky. It's been murky for a while as far as movies, as far as TV. I have not even watched Secret Invasion yet, which is the last show that they had. I watched the first episode and was like, I'm good missing this one, I think.
Yeah.
And the reviews, the fan commentary did not do anything to push me further into watching it. But come October 6th, Loki season 2, we will be seated, because season 1 is the best thing they've put out on Disney Plus so far. And season 2 looks the same way. I liked WandaVision, and then it went off the rails at the end for me. Because it became like, it was very unique and intriguing at the start, and then became more of just like okay, now it's just going to be a battle with a laser going into the sky, and that's that at the second half of the season. But Loki, I think it helped that it was only 6 episodes, so it was just like very quick, no filler. Everything was like very intentional. And now we're getting this second season. The teasers, the trailers that they put out look, again, like the best thing that we're going to get as far as honestly, even on the big screen from what we've seen with what has this year even had Ant-Man 2 or Ant-Man 3, which was a mess.
Yeah.
Is that the only movie that's come out so far? We got the Marvels coming later this year.
Right. I think that's Ant-Man 3 was the last one. Loki's like the only one that I've been excited for. Like truly
No,
the MCU lately. It's like the one thing I've been like, the first season was so good. They played with a lot of amazing themes and they told it cohesively and it was easy to understand and like just visually stunning.
mhm.
And what they've done with this season 2, the promotion for it has been really exceptional. Like has really drawn me in. And I'm like, I love Tom Hiddleston in this role. And I think that they
Yeah,
found an avenue for him in the MCU. Like a vehicle like this for him was just genius.
it's I will say correction, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out as
Right?
well.
How could we forget? It was so good.
It was very good. But that's a shame that that's one of the best ones that we've gotten lately, and we still
Yeah.
forgot about it. Um, but no, I totally agree. Tom Hiddleston as Loki is exactly like what we need from the MCU, just letting him do his thing. And it's interesting that this show is like so integral to like everything that this saga, whatever, of the MCU is all about with the multiverse and timelines and all sorts of stuff. But it still manages to be very self-contained in, you know, I just care about Loki. I'm just gonna watch Loki. I'm sure there's Easter eggs and connections and stuff, but it hasn't gotten to the point where it's like, oh, well, if you haven't watched 800 other things, then you're not going to be able to enjoy this. But Tom Hiddleston's great. Owen Wilson as Mobius is fantastic. We've got Sophia DiMartino as Sylvie, and she's awesome. It's very interesting the cliffhanger that we got at the end of season 1, where she kills the John. We haven't talked about Jonathan Majors. That's going to be. It's interesting. He doesn't seem to have changed the show at all. They're keeping it as is, but very limited in any marketing. Smart move there.
Yeah.
But as things shake out there, I don't know. Are we going to get a recast at some point, depending on the legal situations? Are we going to get a change, or I don't know.
I
It's a
mean, my
mess.
gut says the strikes kind of like help them in that regard in terms of like pushing that.
Timelines,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I think they'll be fine with Loki. I think people are going to tune in regardless.
Hmm.
And he's such a small role compared to everybody else. Like, he's not the main draw of that show.
Yeah.
But, it will be interesting to see what they do. My gut says it'll be a recast, but you just don't know.
Yeah. But with that cliffhanger at the end of season 1, where he was killed by, well, one version of him was
Yeah.
killed by Sophie, or not Sophie, by Sylvie, and kind of set off this chain of events where we get Loki being dropped into what he thinks is the TVA back with Mobius, and then it turns out it's a different timeline. They don't know him, so he's stuck in the wrong place, the wrong time. And I've heard today, actually, as we were recording this, there's some Disney event going on. They teased a little bit of what's to come in Loki, and that season 2 picks up immediately following where season 1 ended. So we'll get some of that right off the bat. And we've also got a new star here in Ke Huy Quan coming in from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Love to see it. I'm so excited. He has a very funny bit in the little teaser that we get for this season. So he just makes me so happy seeing him on screen. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what he can do with such a great cast of Marvel characters and actors all around him.
Same.
Oh, but hopefully that can maybe get Loki, we'll get MCU back on track. We'll see. Like we said, the Marvels is coming out this year, which is we like Brie Larson here.
The trailer was really good. I thought like there's a couple times when like Marvel's put out trailers and you're like meh. Like
Yeah.
I really like I like this. I like Brie, Tiana. There's
Miss
Imani. Like
Marvel, yeah.
um, I think
I'm
they're a good team, and I think this movie will have bigger implications than we think.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't think the world is prepared for any sort of discourse around that movie, knowing what happened with the first Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
It's gonna
We're here
be.
for Brie Larson. We stand her.
We are. More on her later. October 12th, the fall of the House of Usher. I'm turning it over to you as the resident Mike Flanagan. I mean, I'm a Mike Flanagan fan, but you're next level stuff here.
I think this is his last project as part of his Netflix deal. So
Hmm.
this, I know he's been talking about this, the fall of the House of Usher, for a long time. So I have been very excited to see uh what he has in store. Basically, it's based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm like semi familiar, but like I kind of like I haven't read anything
No.
directly based off this because I want to remain spoiler free. And basically, it revolves around Roderick and Madeline Usher, who built this huge pharmaceutical company and just empire of wealth, privilege, and power. But as with any Mike Flanagan show, there's secrets, and when the Usher
Hmm.
dynasty starts dying, uh, you know, we demand answers here. Um, you know, the show has a lot of his usual crew.
His theater troupe, his
I love
company.
Kate Siegel forever. Zach Gilford, Carla Gugino, Tania Miller, who was so good in Bly Manor,
Hmm.
and Henry Thomas. And then there's some newbies.
Luke Skywalker.
I mean, I,
It's I'm very excited for this. Hill House, love it. Bly Manor,
so
love it. Midnight Mass, love it. I tried to watch the Midnight Club. That's what it was called,
yes,
right? I couldn't get into that one. It was just a very different vibe than everything else that we had gotten. But
it
I'm
was.
very excited for this one to get back in the
Yeah,
swing of things.
I love a huge ensemble cast, and this with his usual suspects, and then the new people. Bruce Greenwood actually plays Roderick Usher, so like he is going to have a key role. And I'm probably one of the I watched The Resident all 6 seasons, and I loved him on that show, and I think he is so immensely talented. So Mike Flanagan clearly had a lot of faith in him. So he's going to be awesome to watch, and like just these shows have so much deeper meanings than
Yeah.
anything that we think of at the top when we start. I'm just He always makes me cry in the
Was
most beautiful
there
ways.
was there a lengthy letter from him attached with the screeners this time around? Because I know he did that with Bly
No,
Manor and Midnight Mass.
he did not, but maybe when they drop, like
He'll
whenever,
post
like,
something on social.
yeah. Oh, that man,
No,
a genius.
and he's going to Amazon, right?
I think so, yeah.
After the Netflix deal is over. Oh man. Yeah, those shows that we just mentioned, the previous ones from him are so entertaining and thrilling, but also there is that like deeper meaning and they're so profound as well. So how much have you finished this already with the
I
screeners
haven't
or are you
finished it
still
yet. I'm
okay?
about 3 episodes in.
Okay.
And I really like it so far.
I might have to send some emails. Hit up Netflix. The next day though is another big one, October 13th, kicking off Lessons in Chemistry season on Apple TV Plus. It is, have you read the book? Best-selling
I have
novel.
not read the book. Um,
Me either.
I do know
Rebecca,
about it. It's on my list.
too much to read, too much to watch. No, Rebecca read the book and loved it, thought it was amazing. So she's super excited. We just watched the first screener the other night, so have barely gotten into this. I know you've watched a little bit more, but Brie Larson, Captain Marvel herself, is starring in this. Set in the early 1950s. It's basically about a woman who dreams of being a chemist and is in this 1950s, of course, male dominated patriarchy that she is pushed to the back burner because even though she has her master's in chemistry, she is just not one of the boys. She can't be doing the research, the experiments that she wants. And so as a result, she finds herself fired and becomes a TV star instead, using chemistry to, have a new avenue in a cooking show. And suddenly everybody starts paying a little bit more attention to her and what she's got cooking. So I know this is supposed to be a major awards contender. Apple is very excited about it. These screeners hit our account in June, maybe, I don't know, July. It was,
Yeah.
and it doesn't come out until October. It doesn't end. It'll be weekly releases, and I think it ends like late November. I'm like, you guys are getting this out here months ahead of it even premiering. So you must have something good going on here. And I know you have definitely been a big fan of this so far. So
we will be discussing this in depth when you watch. Brie Larson, obviously Oscar winner. I think a lot of people are going to be talking about Lewis Pullman, who was Bill Pullman's son. He was in, Top Gun Maverick. He was in Outer Range. I think his star is ascending at a rapid pace, and I think this is gonna like catapult him into like the stratosphere. And also Asia Naomi King, a Shonda Rhimes alum. She has a very big supporting role in this.
I'm glad to see Brie Larson getting into, like, obviously you mentioned the Oscar win. Room is an all-time great and such a heavy dramatic performance. And since then, Brie Larson has been a little all over the place with casting, with roles that she's taken. Obviously, she's Captain Marvel. That's a huge role for her. And to get to have some fun with the superhero genre. But then we get things like, I love Fast X, but is Brie Larson an actress of that category, of that caliber? Does she need to be doing Fast X or, Kong Skull Island? Like, they're fun movies, but does it really put her best performances forward? And so I'm excited to dive into this.
Yeah, I will say, knowing what I know from the book, even just the little bits that I've sort of picked up, like, I don't think anybody could have played this character quite like Brie.
I know, like, the teaser that they've put out so far seems to be, again, not having read the book, but it's like her little catchphrase on the show as she ties her hair up. And it seems very much like that's their way to say, listen to her say this line that I assume is iconic from the book that everybody's going to recognize and tell us that this isn't the perfect person to play it. So from what I've seen in one episode, I am completely in agreement with you, and I am excited to continue to get through this. And I know that it'll be a hot topic as we're getting into different award seasons and just the show itself. So that's October 13th on Apple. Talk to me about Fellow Travelers, October 27th.
Basically, this is a limited series, and it's a love story, chronicling this romance between two different men in this sort of McCarthy era Washington. And the two men are played by Matt Bomer and Jonathan Bailey.
American Horror Story alumni.
Yes, and our favorite Bridgerton babe, Jonathan Bailey. I'm here for it. I'm gonna watch it. I got the screeners. I want to read the book first, but those two men are insanely talented, and I cannot the teaser, the chemistry, like talk about lessons in chemistry. I will be tuning in. Showtime. We're sort of Yellow Jackets list right now. Like, I've been wanting something good from them, and I think this is gonna be it.
Well, once down at the bottom in our TBD section, there is a Showtime show that I'm very excited for.
Okay.
Is this Fellow Travelers? Is this going to be like a break your heart drama a la Normal People, or is it a happy romance? Like,
it spans several decades,
so probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Oh.
I wanted to add one thing. There's a show that we didn't talk about, but it's also Apple TV Plus. It's on November 8th, called The Buccaneers.
I've seen a lot about this, but I'm very hesitant because I'm not a period piece girly, but I'm curious.
I flew through those screeners.
Okay,
so the whole thing.
That's also based on a book, an unfinished book, I believe.
Yeah, by Edith Wharton.
But
and the cast is great. The set, it's so lush, and like, it's basically like the teen or like young adult drama in a period piece. Like, it's so good. Everyone.
So you're saying it's the OC, but if it was in, I don't know, the 1600s.
Yes.
Oh wow, I'm hooked.
Rebecca will probably like it.
Okay. No, I literally, Apple Screeners is the best screening platform. I'll say it because they just throw everything on there. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to request anything. It's just all there all at once. So knowing that that's in there as well, I'm very excited. I'll have to check it out because I've seen it as in preparation for this. As you naturally look at other fall TV previews, that one's definitely on there. So That should be fun. I know another one that you're excited for on Netflix, November 2nd, All the Light We Cannot See, another one based on a book. Have you read this
Yes,
book?
I have not read this book, but I see it everywhere I go. I do want to
It's
read.
like one of those iconic covers that like I've just seen, like I can see it and immediately know what it is, but I
Yeah,
haven't read it myself. I don't know the
I
details.
it's a small limited series, I think, but like Mark Ruffalo's in it, and I think it's gonna be one of their like statement, shows of the fall, and
Hmm.
probably a big awards contender for them as well. With that, with I mean Mark Ruffalo like doing TV, like
What's
that's
that about? She-Hulk? Come on, don't skip out on
that's
She-Hulk.
true. That's true. He loves the Hulk.
Um, no, I've seen this as well about just like people hyping it up. Isn't there Hugh Laurie's in here as well? Dr. House back on TV.
Yeah.
We'll have to. And it's Sean Levy.
Oh yes,
Which is
yes.
interesting that
Yeah.
he's this is a heavier topic as it's a like World War II set story, but he's usually the like fun, lighthearted, night at the museum and free guy and all sorts of stuff like that. That this is not necessarily his typical project, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's been really passionate about it, so it must really mean a lot to him. So I'm sure it'll be great.
Um, Moving right along to November 14th. We're almost done here, folks. Stick with us. We're in the last part of the year here. A Murder at the End of the World. This is a FX show, but it is FX on Hulu, so it's not airing on TV, just on Hulu. And it's one that they're pretty excited about as far as just a fun, exciting thriller. Murder. It's literally called Murder at the End of the World, so I bet you can guess it is a murder mystery. But it's fun, it's cool because it's a Gen Z detective, so it's
Oh.
hip. But it seems sort of without like the comedy, a glass onion, because it's like they're all out at a billionaire's exclusive reclusive retreat in what looks to be like the Arctic or something. They're snowed in there at this very modern futuristic compound, and someone is killed. And so this detective, Darby Hart, she's a Gen Z amateur sleuth and tech savvy hacker, along with 8 other guests, are trying to figure out, who killed him, what happened here before more lives are taken. It's got Emma Corrin, Clive Owen, Harris Dickinson, and Alice Braga, among others. But just looks very fun, a cool ambiance, a very cool setting, which I'm also always down for that, to be like, oh, it's a murder mystery, but it's at a billionaire's estate in the Arctic. Like that's a cool way to frame this. So
Yeah.
I'm in. This looks very fun.
I'll probably check it out. Send some screeners.
Send some screeners. Speaking of screeners, I just realized that we had 3 episodes of this new title. November 17th, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. They just dropped the teaser here for this. This is Godzilla on TV.
Okay.
What more could you want here
Right.
from the monsterverse that Legendary has put together with Godzilla, with Kong Skull Island, with, all of the other Ghidorah and Mothra, all of the big kaiju monsters that we've seen on some of these movies. Now they're putting together a TV series. Have you watched any of those movies?
Yes, I have seen some of the recent
There's
Godzilla movies, and
there's Godzilla, then
Kong.
Godzilla King of the Monsters, Kong Skull Island, and then they did Godzilla versus Kong.
I watched Godzilla versus Kong and Kong Skull Island.
Like we've said spectacle a couple times. That's spectacle. It's not like oh my God, this is like a cinematic masterpiece, but as far as like big action, like they look great. So I'm excited to see that translate. We're talking about John Wick to the Continental translating onto Peacock. I don't have those concerns here because this is everything we've gotten from Apple as far as like production value and set and scale has been phenomenal. And this is literally being made with Legendary, which is the studio that made those movies.
Yeah.
So from the teaser, everything looks just absurd that this is a TV show that we're getting. But this is going to be similar to your love story, Fellow Travelers. This is set over 3 decades, and it's about the Monarch organization, which is like the agency that was responsible for all of these creatures that have destroyed the earth. And it's set after the Godzilla movie, so like the world knows that monsters are out there. They've attacked and they're trying to just figure out what comes next. But we've got Wyatt and Kurt Russell in this.
Here for it.
So a little family connection there. We've got John Goodman as well. And it's just kind of like diving into the conspiracies and everything that permeates this organization and has led to such big, horrible events happening and what comes next. So I'm very excited for this just because of the, at the very least, we're going to see some monsters throw down, and at the very best, it could be a thrilling drama at the same time. So I'm all in and very excited to see this one.
I'll be tuning in because I like to see like whatever. It's clearly going to be a big tentpole for Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Kurt and Wyatt Russell, so I'm here to see them on screen together.
So I must admit, I haven't done all of the research for this title, but based on what I was reading, it seems like with the, I don't know if it's like a father-son that they're playing, or if it is like, because there's like throwbacks to the 1950s in the trailer here. I don't know if it's like Wyatt Russell is playing young Kurt Russell.
We'll find out.
So yeah, we'll find out. Maybe it's already out there. Maybe somebody is yelling at their podcast like, I know what the answer is, but I do not. But moving right along, November 21st, more John Hamm on the schedule.
And your girl, Juno Temple.
Keely Jones.
Fargo. Yeah.
I have not watched any seasons of Fargo, so this one's all you.
I have not either, but they had me at Joe Curie. So, and he's playing John Hamm's son. Yes.
He's got kind of like a sketchy haircut here. I don't know if he's like a alt-right neo-Nazi or what, but
playing a guy named Gator, so
could be.
He's not gonna be Steve. But it's been very clear from the past several years that he sort of wanted to flex his muscles in different ways outside of Steve, and we get that and we support that. So maybe Fargo will be sort of his sort of vehicle for an Emmy nomination or something.
Would love to see that. We're all about our favorite babysitter branching out. But I know, I might be confusing this. Fargo, they have different plots each season, right?
Yes. It's okay. Like an anthology series, but they are kind of like, some of them are connected. This one is like revolves around Juno's character. And basically like her past comes back to haunt her in the present day and gets her in trouble. And so it'll be a mysterious and fun show, and like what a great cast.
So what you're saying is that we can tune in despite not having seen the previous 4 seasons. We can tune in for Steve, for Keely, for John Hamm, and still enjoy it. So
absolutely,
say less. That's all I need. The last one on the schedule so far, I know we said fall TV preview. This is just getting in under the border before, what is it? December 21st is the first day of winter. December 20th here. Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Were you a Percy Jackson kid, or was that past your time a little bit?
I think I was a Harry Potter girly. That was my Percy Jackson. So
no,
I have not read the books and I have never seen the movies. But we do stand Logan Lerman. So
Logan Lerman deserved better. Those movies were a mess, but he was great. No, I was also a Harry Potter kid. I was very much a Percy Jackson kid as well, and I firmly believe, like to this day, that Percy Jackson should have been what Harry Potter was as far as like fandom scale. Like the books were great, and then they just got like shafted with a bad movie adaptation. But no, I'm very excited. This is like, they're very well aware that is the sentiment from the previous movies, that Rick Riordan, the author, is like very invested, very involved in the creation of this show. And it's like sticking to his vision for what it looks like. I know one of the complaints was that with those movies, like Logan Lerman, Alexandra Daddario, like all of those characters were like, I don't know, 17, 18 at the time, however old they were at the time, like much older than they should have been. Percy Jackson's 12. So now we're already ahead here, that we've got 12-year-olds playing, like they're going the Harry Potter route with the like right age children playing them. But I was also, just in addition to Percy Jackson, I was a huge Greek mythology kid. So even though I am now nearly a 27-year-old adult, I will be tuning in for this children's show on Disney Plus.
100%.
Finally seeing this show get the justice that it deserves. Lots of talented people in this as well, outside of the kids, but Jason Mantzoukas is in it. Rest in peace, Lance Reddick is in it. I'm curious what happens with that, because he was Zeus, or he will be playing Zeus. And that's like obviously the main god. That is a major character. So I'm curious what this is the first season, what's going to be happening moving forward.
Did he finish filming?
I'm not sure, actually. So that'll be interesting just to see what really unfolds there, because this is so far off in the distance still. But I'm trying to think who else is in this. I had the cast list pulled up. Let's take a look, because it's fun. Jason Mantzoukas on his own is enough to get me involved. Megan Mullally's in here. Glenn Turman. Lin-Manuel Miranda plays Hermes.
Nice.
So we'll see. It may be to the point where it's like too childish for me. So hopefully, but I'm sure I'll still enjoy it, at least to some extent. Maybe just channeling my inner, 13-year-old when I was reading these books. But I'm very excited that at least a new generation will have this, what I wish I could have had.
Absolutely. And it, like, I know I'm well aware of how big those books were, and it deserves a huge, epic, like, something of this production, to sort of, for a whole generation of kids to see, like, visually.
I just hope the way that we've gotten some of the Marvel shows and Star Wars shows being, a little too digitally produced and not I hope that doesn't have the same effect here. But last one, not dated, it's not on the schedule yet, but give us this show. My goodness, The Curse on Showtime. After The Rehearsal on HBO, everyone needs more Nathan Fielder in their life, and that is exactly what we're getting here. The comedy, I'm so confused onto what this is, and I think that's exactly how I want it. Because obviously The Rehearsal was like hidden camera, like comedy, somewhat scripted, but also very real. Just the absurdity of it all. But this is a genre-bending series that explores how an alleged curse disturbs the relationship of a newly married couple as they try to conceive a child, while also co-starring in their new home improvement show. That's just like chaotic in its own. But we've got Nathan Fielder, we've got Emma Stone, we've got Benny Safdie. I'm sold.
They're, Emma and Benny having a big year, Oppenheimer, and then Poor Things. Like,
and then The Curse.
Then The Curse. Emmys and Oscars.
Let's win them all. No, Nathan For You is hysterical. The Rehearsal was hysterical, and also just like taking the absurdity to a whole new level. So I'm curious if this is more of a scripted thing. I'm curious to see like how the comedy adapts to that method. But either way, I feel like it's going to be just ridiculous, nonstop laughs. So let's just get this thing on the calendar, Showtime. But that's it. That's all. That is what we've got in store this fall. I know we said it off the top that there is, there was a lot of speculation on could we be missing out on stuff this fall? Your answer is no. As we just went through, Avery and I have listed out everything you need to be watching this fall. There is a ton to dive into. We're very excited for it. And we will be talking about it all throughout on social media, on the platform, on podcast, everything that we're doing here. Have to have you come back for maybe a follow up on some of these shows, Lessons in Chemistry episode, perhaps.
Because I have thoughts.
I'm sure we all will have thoughts, and we'll have to break it all down. But Avery, thank you so much for joining. Let the people know where they can find you. Hollywood Life, Twitter, social media, whatever. X.
Well, I'm right for Hollywood Life, so you can always find my content there. We're going to be ramping up a lot of like TV content for September, which is a crazy busy month, as you are well aware of now. And then I'm on Twitter, X, and Instagram at Avery Thompson at Avery _Thompson. So yeah, I'm usually tweeting about things. I've been kind of lying low since Succession. I've sort of had to like readjust. But yeah, I'm excited for fall TV, and thank you for having me.
Of course. It was an absolute blast. So excited to talk to you and use your TV expertise here. But thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. We appreciate all the support and could not do it without you. Make sure that you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, all of those platforms at Inside Film Room. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our newsletter. Lots of subscriptions, but make sure you're in the know so that you can come back and see us next time. We'll see you then.